This is Including You, the new series from Lead at Any Level. Including You features stories from chief diversity officers and other executives who are creating inclusive cultures in their organizations. Our goal is to show what's working in companies just like yours, to give you the tools you need to keep pushing for progress in your own workplace. We want to create belonging and opportunity for everyone, including you. And now here's your host, Amy C. Waninger.
Welcome back to Including You. I'm your host, Amy C. Waninger, the Inclusion Catalyst. My guest today is James Dyson. He's the founder and managing partner of Think Evolutionary, a premier consulting firm specializing in driving organizational growth and competitiveness through a comprehensive range of services. Think Evolutionary is based in Washington, D.C. And James, I'm so excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, can you explain a little bit about how Think Evolutionary came into being, and who are your target clients? Who do you work with most often or plan to work with most often in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So Think Evolutionary came about actually about 6 years ago. I had just transitioned from a large government contractor being their talent acquisition director and was looking for what was I going to do next? And what I realized is there is a lot of small government contractors that struggle on the in-between of once they win a large contract to then staffing the large contract, because they're in the GovCon world, there is the proposal run up that could take anywhere from 6 months to 4 to 5 years to complete. But then once you win the contract, you have 30 days to get people in the door and get them to start working. And a lot of small government contractors are struggling once they won to then meet the 30-day mark, to meet the 45-day mark. So I started a company originally to help them understand the connection between talent and business development, that they need to look through it through the same lens because it provides the same type of, they're 1A and 1B. So you put all this effort into business development and finding the work and finding sales and going after it and chasing it, and then you win in it. And then you get to the point that you got to staff it and you have to run it. So if you don't put that same level of energy into the preparation for the staffing and the operations side of it, you're going to fall short. You're going to have issues with the customers or clients that now all these great things that you did from the sales side, you look a little loose on the operation aspect. So the original intent was to help them understand what do they need to do from a talent standpoint. Do you need to work with a small talent team and trying to prepare during the proposal aspect? Do you need to hire a talent recruiter in-house initially for right now for 6 months? Understanding how to scale, understanding that you don't just have to spend everything on staffing agencies. You can scale and do both of it. So that was the original intent into it. And then I did that for a little while. And then I got a couple of opportunities to do more in the DEI world, which is really at my heart, what I love doing. So the combination between DEI and talent. And now it has metamorphosized into more of a talent and DEI consulting firm. So I'm helping companies still from their talent acquisition. We're still doing placements, still doing executive searches, but I'm also helping them understand how can the talent team become more effective DEI implementers, how they can provide a DEI strategy into their company and their corporation. Does the HR team need help finding diverse sources of talent? How do they bring those in? Really teaching what I call the methodology of diverse recruiting is technically illegal. You can't. You're not supposed to go out and find, I'm only going to look for a Black woman for this role. That's illegal. But if you want to get more minority women into your pool, where do you go? Where do you find? Where do you have to advertise? Where do you market yourself? And that's a little bit of the secret sauce in figuring that out. So I help companies organize and figure that standpoint. And then here recently, just a HR talent technology optimization. So taking a look at your talent tools that you have, whether it's ATS, HRIS, and the systems that connect in between. And do they talk together? Do they work well? How well are they optimized? And so helping companies really get the most out of the tools that they're utilizing to help them bring talent in and to make sure that they're paying at a cost-efficient price for them. So that's where we are right now.
So it sounds like to me, and I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, that the talent technology enables talent acquisition, that can further your business development objectives. And
Absolutely.
it's a package deal between the technology, the talent, and the sales process or the business acquisition process. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. It's the combination of all three that makes really good companies grow and thrive. Because when you look at the larger, more successful companies, that's what they have. They typically have a large sales organization, they have a large talent organization, and they have the money to invest into all the tools that helps both sides. So how do small organizations essentially do the same thing, but at a scalable, more price effective aspect for them?
I would imagine this is a huge competitive advantage for small companies that get this right, because small companies are more nimble in the marketplace, number one.
Mhm.
But number two, a lot of times small businesses can be more diverse
Yes.
and therefore even more innovative
Yes.
than their larger competitors. Is that kind of what your customers are looking for when they come to you, your clients?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The ability to understand how they can maneuver through everything a lot quicker. And like you said, they can be more nimble. They can be more diverse because they have the ability to build and grow their company at a small state and bringing in more diverse talent. So as you bring in more diverse talent, it continues to grow. So as the diversity grows with the company, you're already there. And that's the biggest thing. It's hard for large companies that look like the status quo to then shift and change to be a very diverse organization. But it's a lot easier for smaller organizations to grow and start their path in diversity and having more diverse individuals within the company and growing from there and having them help to grow the company.
Yeah, so many times companies, especially small businesses, small business owners, they start with the people they know in their
Yeah.
networks. That's who they do business with, which is a pretty natural thing. That's what we all tend to do. I think the problem comes in when the business owners themselves don't have diverse networks to tap into. And so
Yes.
they start with this very homogeneous core network
Mhm.
and they build from there. And then, like to your point, it becomes very difficult to attract diverse talent
Right.
because why would I want to join a company where nobody looks like me and I'm the first one breaking the mold?
That's it. And
Yeah.
it's tough to because once you start bringing in your friends and family network into it, that's the culture that is being built within the company. So now who else are hiring people? So now you hire your friend who now goes out and hires their friend, goes out and hires their friend, and all of your friends tend to look alike. And it creates this culture of what the people that are coming into the organization. And that can also work both ways. I see a lot of diverse companies, whether they're small minority owned companies that are doing the same thing. It's all of one group. I'm like, you need to do the same thing. You need to diverse and reach out and go to some of these other places. I was talking to one potential client and they had small minority owned company and he was targeting all of the historically black colleges because that's where he came from, and rightfully so, bringing able to bring in. And I told him, I was like, you need to try to branch out and see other areas and see other schools because you can continue to grow, but you look and can become even more successful when you branch out. And branching out helps you understand more. It's the same philosophy works both ways and it goes from both aspects. So it's always good to be able to branch out and connect with everybody.
Absolutely. You are speaking to my heart. My first book was a book on networking,
Yes.
specifically about how do we change the flow of opportunity
Yes.
by engaging differently with our professional networks and building more robust and inclusive professional networks. And I see this play out in so many ways in companies large and small.
Yeah.
And I always cringe when I look at somebody's website, small business website. And if you squint just a little bit, you can't tell those people apart. They're all the same age. They all
Yeah.
look alike. And I get it. But at the
Right.
same time, if you start early
Yeah.
and you move with intention, you're going to be so many miles ahead of the people who didn't move with intention early.
That's it. That's it.
So,
It's
yeah.
always a challenge and it's always And I've talked about, people talk about having bias training from a DEI standpoint. And I always say bias training is great. The ones you get in your corporations, the ones that's 45 minutes or an hour, those are great kind of refreshers of what bias training is and what unconscious bias really is. It's more of a definition review. But if you're going to have actual training, bias training is therapy, because you're not going to be able to untrain somebody that has been thinking this way for typical workforce is somewhere in their 20s to 60s now. So 20 to 60 years of thinking a way, maybe not even knowing that they're thinking that way. You're not going to turn that light switch off in a day course or even a 2-day course. Like, this is something that the company has to understand and work to do and develop within itself, develop within your talent management, within your performance management, in your talent acquisition, in these areas that you're bringing in people and evaluating your talent and allowing people to move around in your organization has to be thought of with unconscious bias in mind. And how do we eliminate it in the company? And that's why it's always, DEI is tough, because it's a lot of times it's a lot of grassroots organizations in a large company. No matter what, that's always going to be some type of marketing and branding, because you can't push up that level of acceptance in that large of a company. It has to come from the top down, and it has to be meaningful from the top down.
Yeah, two things I want to add to that. The first is, to paraphrase what you said, bake it in, don't bolt it on.
That's it. Yes.
Make it the way you do business, not something else people have to think about.
Yes.
Because if it's something else people have to think about, they will never get it done.
Right.
People have too much to do already. So it has to be in the way we interact with each other, in the way our processes and systems are structured, in all of the mechanisms of how we do business. We have to think about that first as an integral layer. The second piece, I love what you said, you're not going to change your culture in a lunch and learn. And it just doesn't happen. And
No.
the way I always explain this to folks, James, is if for some reason, let's say you decided that everybody being a proficient piano player was important to your competitive advantage as a business. Now, that's a ridiculous example, but let me go on. Let's say we decided everybody needs to be proficient playing the piano, or we're not going to succeed as a business. You wouldn't bring somebody in to play the piano for 30 minutes over lunch on a Tuesday and expect everybody to be proficient as a pianist on Wednesday.
That's right.
But that's what a lot of companies do with DEI. They say, oh, this is important to us. Can you come show us how to do this over lunch? It doesn't work that way. You need practice, you need theory, you need application, you need to think differently, you need to learn a new language. And it's all a process that can't be done in just 1 or 2 sessions. And so I appreciate that you're out here spreading that message, because I think more people need to hear it more often, so that they have realistic expectations of folks like us when we come in.
That's it. And that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of times it was originally set up in understanding. When I was talking to a customer, they asking us, okay, so after this training, like, everybody should be good to go. And it's, no, this is a introductory class. This is your 101. This is your English 101. There was a class, it was like freshman studies. I think I remember taking that. It was like a 101 course, but it's every year you had a different version of it. You had to get more and more. And I'm like, you have to do the same thing. Like, you have to continually to add on to whatever the training is. I was like, you could have something in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, then you go to year 2. And the question was, how do we get new people? It's like, new people start at year 1, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. They go through the process. Not everybody's going to be at the same stage, but you have to build the plan out to understand how long does the growth take, because it may take a while, and how we're going to incorporate it into our company. How is it going to be a part of who we are as a culture from that standpoint? Because culture and DEI is very different. They're 2 separate things. One is this is who we are, this is who we bring to it, and the DEI aspect is very operational. It's very process. It's very policy. These are things you put in place to do. So I do hear a lot of companies think we have great culture, and it's like, culture does not mean that you have good DEI policies in place.
Yeah, I always ask when somebody says, "Oh, we're a great place to work," right? We got the badge. And I'm sorry, I need to revise that so I'm not using anybody's tagline, but we're an employer of choice of whatever
Right.
survey brand we use. And I call it the everyone loves working here badge, right?
That's
Everyone
it.
loves working here. Okay, who's everyone?
Yeah.
It's a good place for people to be, but a good place for whom? Because
Right.
when you disaggregate that data, if you've only got a handful of people who don't look like everybody else, who don't think like everybody else, who don't act like everybody else,
Yeah.
their feedback gets lost in that big pile of data.
That's it.
And I always use the example, if you're an engineering firm and you have 80 men and 20 women, and the 80 men love working there,
Mm-hmm.
and the 20 women hate working there, but your threshold for your LinkedIn badge is 80% positive, you
Right.
win.
Yeah.
But you've got people that are being left out of this. And so how do you bridge that?
That's right.
And so I always think there's like another layer of questions that need to be asked.
Yes.
Um, because if companies really want to be intentional about this and not just, as you said, in marketing mode,
That's right.
it's important to be honest about what's going on inside, before you can ever make real change.
That's it. Yes. That's it. Taking a look at yourself, understanding, where your shortfalls are, and then looking at those and how do we address those. That's the key thing in DEI. You can't do DEI and have no metrics. You have to know your metrics. You have to know where you stand. And there's so many different types of metrics. I think somebody asked me, it's like, what's the best metrics for DEI? And I was like, it really depends on your company and what do you want to do. There's a standard baseline metrics of who is in your company, where are they per department, per region and area. That's probably the best one to start with. And then you go, okay, where are we deficient? Or where do we as a company want to go? You may be deficient in some areas, but you want to do more in certain areas, which is fine. But where are we and what do we want to do? Those are your two questions before I can ever really answer truly what are the best metrics for a specific company to get into it, because you got to know what you want.
Exactly. And I think it's helpful to know why you want it also.
Very.
Because if we
Yes.
want to improve our numbers because of a pride thing, or right,
Hmm.
because, and I don't mean pride like LGBTQ pride,
Right.
internal feeling good, fortifying ourselves about our culture,
Right.
that's a different set of measures.
Hmm.
And you're going to have different commitment than if it's, look, we've got business objectives we have to meet.
Yeah.
And in order to meet those objectives, we need to be represented in these regions by these kinds of people. We need to have access to these markets. We need to have relationships with these clients.
That's
How
right.
do we get there? And DEI is a core component of that.
Yeah.
Not that DEI isn't the right thing to do, but when that's all it is for your company, it's really easy to push it back.
Right. Yes. Yes, absolutely. And there's always the reasons why when you ask an executive, it's like, why do you want to do DEI? It's usually because, hey, it's the right thing to do. It's just we just want to be on the right side of history type of thing. Okay. All right. We want to bring in more diverse talent. So we need more talent. It's a hiring objective. We want to bring in more people from there. We as an organization there may have connections to whether it is a BIPOC or a different area. They have a specific place that's near and dear to their heart or something there. There may be some kind of community charitable aspect that they really believe in and they want their company to be a part of it from there. Or it's just like we said, it's marketing and brand, it's good business. And so it's okay. So it's once you figure out where you really are going in the long run, then we can start getting into it and figuring out how to get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, James, I want to thank you for this conversation. Where can people reach you if they want to learn more about you and Think Evolutionary and how to work with you?
Yes, absolutely. The website is thinkevolutionary.com. You can come on there. You can send me a note from there. On my LinkedIn page, you can find me at, I think it's just, you just type in James Dyson Jr., me and the guy from London who owns that large vacuum company. Sometimes people get us confused from that standpoint. But other than that, I'm pretty easy to find. And then I'm on IG at I am James Dyson Jr. And those right now are the big places to find me, to get me from there. But come to the website, thinkevolutionary.com. And then you can see all of the fun stuff. There's blog sites. You can also check out my podcast, which is Conversations on DEIB, Breaking Barriers. So Breaking Barriers, Conversation on DEIB and Talent.
Excellent. We'll put all those links in the show notes.
Fantastic.
So everyone will have them. James, thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, and for sharing so much of yourself with my friends today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. I really appreciate it.
If you've enjoyed this episode, follow Lead at Any Level on LinkedIn and YouTube. Then join us for Including You video simulcast every Thursday at noon Eastern. Including You can also be enjoyed each week as part of the Living Corporate audio podcast series, available on all major podcast platforms. Learn more at living-corporate.com. Including You is brought to you in part by Lead at Any Level, a boutique training and consulting firm improving employee engagement and retention for companies that promote from within. Lead at Any Level. Leaders can be anywhere and should be everywhere. Learn more at leadatanylevel.com. Lead at Any Level and its logo are registered trademarks of Lead at Any Level LLC. The views and opinions of guests on our show do not necessarily reflect the positions of Lead at Any Level, Living Corporate, or the sponsors of Including You.